All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. And I had a good wild card weekend. I went 5-1 with my picks as we're down from 14 teams to now just eight. Just eight teams still have an opportunity to claim the Vince Lombardi Trophy for this NFL season. And of course, after Sunday, we're going to be down to four as it will be on to Conference Championship Sunday. But with that said, who has what it takes to advance? And with that said, here are my picks for this weekend in the divisional round. Now, tomorrow at Arrowhead, you're going to have the Jacksonville Jaguars clashing with the top team in the AFC in the Kansas City Chiefs. And for the Chiefs, they had the first round bye on the AFC side. And you just have to ask yourself, do they have what it takes to hold off the upstart Jaguars? I mean, we saw the Jaguars be on the brink of elimination last week, only to rally, come back from that 27-point deficit in order to knock off the Los Angeles Chargers. But this time around, things are going to be a lot different for the Jags. I mean, Jacksonville played Kansas City in the regular season, and it was a scenario where, the Chiefs had a run in that game, and Jacksonville, they clawed back into the game, but they just did not have enough to overtake the Chiefs at Arrowhead. I know this place is going to be very noisy regardless tomorrow, but then you have Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence coming out and making the comments that, you know, TIA Bake Field basically is almost the same, as Arrowhead as far as the noise. I guarantee you the folks in Kansas City are going to be taking that as a challenge. And Arrowhead has been one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL for years, going back to the days when Marty Schottenheimer coached the Chiefs. And you can ask any opponent of the Chiefs, especially when the Chiefs are good, especially those teams that have faced them in the AFC West, like the Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders, how raucous that crowd can get. But nonetheless, for Jacksonville, they have to find a way to keep the momentum going that they established in the second half of their game against the Chargers. I'll tell you like this: Trevor Lawrence cannot have a first half again like he did in the first half against the Chargers, because unlike the Chargers, if he has a bad half like that, this Chiefs team will not let him off the hook. I don't see Trevor Lawrence playing that bad football as he did in the first half. He was really locked in the second half against the Chargers, and I think it's going to carry over to this game. For Jacksonville, they're playing with house money. They feel like they have nothing to lose. Nobody expected them to be at this point. And whenever you get a team like that this late into the postseason, they become dangerous. Now, a ton of familiarity between both head coaches, Doug Peterson and Andy Reid. Of course, Doug Peterson played for Andy Reid with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was an assistant coach under Andy Reid with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was also an assistant under Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then, of course, both of these coaches have Super Bowl championships on their resume. We talked about it with what Jacksonville can do, but on the flip side, you're taking on that guy at quarterback, and I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes. And when I talk about the turnovers, and Jacksonville had 5 last week, you cannot give a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes additional opportunities. And it's one of those scenarios where this Jacksonville defense has to find a way to get to Patrick Mahomes and make him uncomfortable. It's going to be easier said than done. I think this game is going to be a good one. I think it's going to be better than some people expect. I know Kansas City is a 9.5 point favorite at home, but look, Jacksonville's coming. And this is the future of the quarterback position in the AFC. And I've talked about that on several different podcasts with Patrick Mahomes, with Joe Burrow, with Trevor Lawrence, with Justin Herbert, with Josh Allen. And these guys are going to be bumping heads so many times in the postseason. We saw Trevor Lawrence faced Justin Herbert last week. Now Trevor Lawrence is going to face Patrick Mahomes. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair with two very good quarterbacks, but I'm going to give the edge to the Kansas City Chiefs at home by the score of 27-23. Now, tomorrow night at Lincoln Financial Field, it's a battle of the Hatfields and the McCoys. And I'm talking about the New York Giants facing the Philadelphia Eagles. And you think about these teams, there is no love lost between them. And I mean, the rivalry between the Eagles and the Giants goes back decades. And I mean, it's a who's who of players and Hall of Famers that have made their impact in this game. Chuck Bednarik, Frank Gifford, Andy Robustelli, Sam Huff, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Michael Strahan. We can just go right down the list as far as the physicality that we've seen between these teams over the years. Now, in recent years, the Eagles have had the edge in this rivalry, and in doing so, they've passed the Giants for the all-time wins. They're up 92-88 on New York in this rivalry. But these two teams are 2-2 in the postseason. So you look at it like this: for the Giants, again, like Jacksonville, New York comes into this game playing with house money because we saw them go on the road and get the big win last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Now they're taking on a Philadelphia Eagles team who's a top team in the NFC. But I'll tell you like this: the Giants are not going to be taking the field tomorrow night with fear on their mind because they got blown out by the Eagles earlier this season. But then in week number 18, we saw the Giants play Philly real close, and the Giants had their second and third stringers in that game, while Philadelphia had their starters in that contest as they were looking to wrap up home field advantage. Now, I will say this: we saw Jalen Hurts, the Eagles quarterback, miss 2 games late in the season after sustaining that shoulder injury. He came back in week 18 against the Giants and looked rusty. Now he had a bye week. That's another opportunity for him to have an additional week to get that shoulder healthier. And that's going to be very important. But you still wonder about the rust. Now, coming down the stretch, the Eagles did not play their best football, but I think they're going to be up for the challenge in this one because they know it's basically win or go home. Now, on the flip side for the Giants are coming in there with a ton of confidence, but they don't want to be overconfident. Daniel Jones played the best game of his career last Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, but the Eagles' defense is a lot better than what Daniel Jones had to face against the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's going to be imperative for the Giants to keep doing what they've been doing, mixing it up offensively, both running and passing the football. But then I look at this Giants defense as well. They're playing hot right now. They put pressure on Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins last Sunday, but I think this time around, it's not just about the pressure. They have to find a way to keep the athletic Jalen Hurts in that pocket and make him a passer. Easier said than done. I think this is going to be a very intriguing matchup between the Giants defense and the Eagles offense. I say that now because the Giants defensively are healthy, especially in their secondary. You've got Xavier McKinney back, you've got a Dory Jackson back, and that's going to be very important with the athletes that the Eagles have at wide receivers, such as Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. I think this game is going to be a tremendous game. It's going to be a fierce battle throughout. And I don't think enough people are giving the Giants credit for what they've been able to do. But New York is not going to be a pushover for Philadelphia in this game. I just don't see Daniel Jones having another game like he did last Sunday. Maybe I'm wrong. But with that said, I'm going to take Philadelphia to protect home serve in this one by the score of 27-20. Now, moving on to Sunday, you're going to have the Cincinnati Bengals, the champions of the AFC North, traveling to take on the Buffalo Bills. 33 degrees at game time in Orchard Park. Both of these teams know how to play in the cold weather. Buffalo comes in favored by 5.5. And I'll tell you like this. Um, it was all about surviving and advancing last week at home, respectively, for both the Bills and Bengals. And of course, The Bengals spent the offseason beefing up their offensive line. Now it is once again a question mark for this team. You look at the Buffalo Bills, they were able to escape a very game Miami Dolphins team. And I look at both of these teams. I think both of these teams need to find a way to run the football and take pressure off of their Pro Bowl quarterbacks. Defensively, which secondary is going to be up for the challenge of taking or containing the talented wide receivers that they're going to be facing? It's kind of like been there, done that for both of these teams. And I look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They're the defending AFC champions, and I feel like they're not getting enough credit, and I still feel like they're playing that disrespect card as well. You look at Joe Burrow, calm, cool, and collected in that pocket, and if this patchwork Bengals offensive line can give him enough time, a guy like Jamar Chase can find his way to navigate through that Bills secondary. Buffalo also has to worry about the likes of T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd coming, out of that receiving core, as well as Joe Mixon coming out of the backfield as a receiver as well. I think Mixon is going to be utilized more in the pass game as a protector, just due to the fact that Cincinnati has so many issues on their offensive line currently. On the flip side for Buffalo, you look at Josh Allen. He's been known to take risk, and he's been known to force interceptions. And with that said, you look at this Cincinnati secondary; they're ball hawks back there. So Josh Allen cannot go out there and take those chances against them like he has with other teams. This is a scenario where right here, the Bills have not missed Von Miller since he went down with the ACL injury. And of course, the postseason Super Bowl rush, or Super Bowl run rather, was why the Bills went out there to get Von Miller. And of course, unfortunately for their sake, he is not there. And I think this is a game where Buffalo misses Von Miller. And because of that, I'm going to take Cincinnati on the road by the score of 34-32. And finally, on Sunday in Santa Clara, you're going to have the Dallas Cowboys traveling to take on the San Francisco 49ers. And San Francisco comes into this contest favored by 4 points. And you think about playoff history, and there is enough playoff history to go around between these two storied franchises. You're talking about 10 Super Bowl championships between both of these clubs. You're talking about Dallas and San Francisco meeting twice in the 1970s in the NFC Championship game. And on both occasions, it was Dallas that got the best of San Francisco. You fast forward to the 90s, pardon me, even before that, let's go to 1981, where Joe Montana established himself with the comeback for the 49ers against the Dallas Cowboys and really set the pace for the Niners to be the team in the 1980s. And then, of course, the 1990s, where Dallas and San Francisco met in 3 consecutive NFC championship games. Obviously, this is a new era. We saw these two teams meet in the postseason last year in the wild card round. San Francisco went on the road and got the win. And for Dallas, they are definitely seeking revenge. Now, for Dallas's side, they're coming into this game with a ton of confidence, and rightfully so. Dallas played their worst game of the season in their Week 18 loss to the Washington Commanders. They turned it around and had one of their best games of the season this past Monday, rather, on the road to eliminate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dallas definitely wants to keep that momentum going, but it's going to be easier said than done. I say that because Dak Prescott played as good as he could play last Sunday, but that was against the Bucks defense. How is he going to do it against the 49ers defense? I look at it like this. For Dak to have success in this contest, several things have to happen. Dallas needs to establish their running game with Tony Pollard, not Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard early on to really give this offense some balance. Then on top of that, Dak has to get the football out quick, because if you want to hold that ball with the way that the 49ers can rush the passer with Joey Bosa, pardon me, with Nick Bosa and company, it's going to make things tough for Dak Prescott. Remember, he played flawless on Monday night, but Dak still led the league in interceptions. And if this pass rush can get to Dak, he could throw one or two big picks in this contest. Also, for me, I look at it like this. I know that Dallas defensively wants to go out there and put some pressure on rookie quarterback Brock Purdy. But even looking back to last year's game, two differences for me for San Francisco, actually three differences for San Francisco coming into this game. If you go back to last year, Nick Bosa was lost in the first half to an injury with that game, and the 49ers still rushed the passer effectively. Brock Purdy as a rookie, in my opinion, is more an accurate thrower of the football than Jimmy G was. And then on top of that, in that game last year, San Fran did not have running back Christian McCaffrey. And when you look at the 49ers offensively, the question is, who do you double? And I know Micah Parsons is an effective pass rusher. I know that Dan Quinn is probably going to try to move him around to try to confuse Brock Purdy as far as where he comes from. But the way that this 49ers offense is set up, it's set up in a way where Brock Purdy can be almost like an NFL point guard. And I say that from the standpoint, get the ball out quickly and give it to the playmakers around you. The 49ers, in my opinion, have the best running game in football. And if they establish that line of scrimmage, Dallas defensively could be in for a long afternoon because who do you focus on? Do you focus on Christian McCaffrey? Do you focus on Debo Samuel? Do you focus on Elijah Mitchell? It's kind of like, you know what, pick your poison. And if you want to stop the run, you got to worry about George Kittle over the middle. You got to worry about Brandon Ayuk coming out as a wide receiver. You still have to worry about Debo Samuel as a wide receiver. I look at it like this. Both of these teams are littered with athletes on both sides of the football. It's just going to come down to which players are going to seize the moment in this one. A lot of people have jumped on the Dallas bandwagon after they beat Tampa Bay. And I kind of talked about this because I feel like it's the Cowboys syndrome where if they win a playoff game, a lot of people are going to be jumping on their bandwagon. And I feel in doing so, a lot of people are disrespecting a darn good San Francisco 49ers team. This is going to be a very good game, but at the end of the day, especially since San Francisco has a 2-day advantage, they played at home last Saturday. Dallas played on Monday night, did not get back home to start preparing for this game until early Tuesday morning. Advantage San Francisco. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the Niners to win at home by the score of 30-24. TFX, how you doing? You said you had no idea who will win this one. I think if Brock can do it, he has another if he has another overachieving game. I think Brock Purdy so far in his brief NFL career, excuse me, has done a tremendous job as far as not trying to play hero ball. He knows who's on this team around him, and already he's earned the respect of his teammates, and that's big for a rookie quarterback. And you look at it, so much talent offensively for San Francisco. Let's get it to the playmakers around him, and that's what Purdy has done so far, and I think he will continue to do it. You said you missed the first two picks, and you want to ask me to recap. Definitely, that's no problem. I just talked about the Jags and the Chiefs. And I think for Jacksonville, like I said before, Jacksonville, they cannot start off slow against Kansas City like they did the Chargers. The Chargers are a better team than the Chiefs. You're on the road and you're in Arrowhead. And I guarantee you, Arrowhead is already going to be rocking on Saturday. If you go down -2 in a turnover battle early in this one, and this Chiefs offense led by Patrick Mahomes capitalizes, and then you get the fans into the game more than they already are, it's going to make things tough. But on the flip side, Jacksonville is playing with house money, and they played Kansas City at Arrowhead earlier this season, and they weren't phased even in defeat. This team is going to be very game. There's not anything that Andy Reid can show Doug Peterson that he hasn't seen before, vice versa. But when it's all said and done, I think the experience of the Chiefs will play out. And then in regards to Eagles Giants, like I said, there's no love lost between these two long-standing NFC East rivals. Philly definitely wants to use the week off to their advantage. They still got to shake some of that rust off from Jalen Hurts. And also, they got to protect his shoulder. But you look at this Giants pass rush, they're coming. So I think this is going to be a very physical game. Philadelphia has to prepare themselves for a very physical game. It's going to come down to the turnover battle as well as field position. I don't see Daniel Jones playing as well against the Eagles as he did against the Vikings, because defensively the Eagles are much better than Minnesota was. And you look at it, the link is going to be rocking on Saturday night. No love lost between Giants fans and Eagles fans. Would not surprise me to see an altercation or two in the stands. It's just the nature of it. I'm not glorifying it. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's going to be an epic. But I'm still going to give the edge to Philadelphia. So I'm picking three home teams and a road team to advance to the respective conference championship games. But I think when it's all said and done, I think we are in for a quartet of tremendous games. Again, I'm surprised that Jacksonville is a 9.5 point dog to Kansas City. I think this game is going to be closer than people expect. Same thing with the Giants being a 7.5 point dog to Philly. It's one of those where the Giants are going to give the Eagles a much stiffer competition than people think. Buffalo, 5.5 point favorite at home over Cincinnati. And again, for the life of me, I can't understand why the Bengals continue to be disrespected like they are. And I know that the 49ers are a 4 point favorite at home, but a lot of people are picking Dallas to win this game. And I'm like, you look at this 49ers team, they're loaded. Dallas has talent on their team as well, but it's going to be interesting to see if they can seize that moment and keep the momentum that they established last week on the road against the Bucks. But again, the Bucks ain't the 49ers, and the 49ers can get after you with that front four. And I think the 49ers probably have the best pass rush in the NFL. And at this junction of the season, you need to run the ball, you need to rush the passer, you need to force the turnovers. The 49ers, I think they do that a little bit better than the Cowboys. And I think that could be the difference in this contest, which should be an epic. But with that said, folks, those are my picks for the divisional weekend in the NFL playoffs. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. TFX, as always, I appreciate your commentary. I appreciate you tuning in. I know you're going to have fun watching these games over the next 2 days, rather. I definitely will, as we'll be one step closer to crowning a Super Bowl champion for this season. But with that said, folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care, have a wonderful weekend, and enjoy the NFL playoffs. Take care, folks. Be well.